So let's get to that one. It was a third-round pick for Smith, second-round pick for DK Metcalf. Initially, the Seahawks were reportedly looking for a 1 and a 3. So either that was wrong or they swung and they missed and they hit themselves in the face with the bat, because a 2 is a long way from a 1 and a 3.
Yeah, no, a long way from a 1 and a 3. As we always talk about, though, the contract situation, of course, takes the value out of that altogether. The player stating that he doesn't want to be there with the football team anymore also takes value out of that altogether. So that's where I think the pendulum swings in favor of the team trying to acquire the player altogether. And come on, I mean, also, too, this is a team in the Steelers desperate to address this situation. We spent last offseason talking about receivers. We talked last training camp about acquiring receivers and Brandon Ayuk from the 49ers quite possibly and all of that. It's too hard. Like, unless you got Patrick Mahomes or a really special quarterback that could cover the holes of an offense, like, you need a big-time wide receiver in the NFL right now. It's too hard to move the ball up and down the field over and over and be surgical and 12 plays, 75 yards. You need a guy like DK that can just say, see ya, there's 50 yards. Boom, the drive will be easier from here on out. Oh, 70-yard touchdown. See ya. And that's what he can do. And they're starving for that there in Pittsburgh. So, yeah, almost like a duh move for them. Good for them to get it done. Do it now. Again, I don't think this is a really strong wide receiver class, so they weren't going to find that guy, a guy where you could just go, hey, superstar, line up over here, and it'll change the whole game for all of us, right? That didn't exist. That does not exist, I don't think, in this draft. And they get it with DK Metcalf, and now they can use their picks, right, to address other needs on their team, or at least their first-round pick.
The issue, though, with that kind of a commitment,
yeah,
$33 million per year in new money. Now, there's going to be different opinions on where that ranks in Steelers franchise history. Ben Roethlisberger had a contract late in his year that was 2 new years tacked onto the existing years at $68 million, which makes it $34 million per year in new money. That's why I hate the new money talk, because there's never an extension. They rip up the contract. They put in a new one. What is that contract worth from the moment it's signed? But the agents want to get credit for the new money because we'd already negotiated the old money, yada, 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 and the new money's always bigger. But still, it's $30 million for Metcalf from signing and $33 million in the 4 new years. That is a gigantic investment for the Steelers. It is uncharacteristic. A team that had figured out the formula for drafting great, but sometimes troubled, young receivers has opted to break the bank for a guy whose performance, Chris, 6 seasons, 6 900-yard or more receiving years, 3 of them 1,000 or more, that does not scream out $33 million a year, which tells me they got a plan for using this guy. Maybe he's going to play quarterback. I don't know. But they got a – I'm kidding. Before you clip it and put it on social media and say, what a dumb shit he is. Sorry, London.
Well, let's say that anyways. What a dumb shit you are. It just feels good.
Okay. But what I was texting with someone over the weekend who carefully follows the Seahawks and follows every move they make on the field. And I'm going to paraphrase this because I don't want to out who the person is. They have misused DK. Geno misses a lot of opportunities for DK completions. There are so many plays where DK is open, but Geno isn't looking there or doesn't pull the trigger. That compounds what we've been saying from the get-go, and this was something that you noticed, and you're absolutely right about it. Like, they don't get the ball in his hands. There are ways to get a football in the receiver's hands. Jet screen, bubble sweep. You can do design plays where the guy's going to be open. Oh, he's covered? No. But the way the play goes, he's going to be open. He's big enough, he's fast enough, he's strong enough to get open, whether it's a pick play, a rub route, whatever. There are ways to scheme a guy open and get him the football. And the Seahawks never seemed like a team that were going to do that. Chris, my point is, if you're going to pay this guy $33 million a year in new money, $30 million full value from signing, you better have a plan for using him.
Yeah.
And it implies the fact that Steelers of all teams made this move, it implies they got a plan for using this guy, and they're sold on the fact that it's going to work.
Yeah, it implies that. It implies they don't totally trust George Pickens, right? It implies that, yeah, they like DK Metcalf and everything he stands for, and they feel like he's probably got Steelers attitude. You're exactly right as far as like a plan for him. They better have one for him. Yes, the Seahawks, for whatever reason the last few years, they kind of just, hey, you line up here, here's the plays, and the ball will come your way when the defense says that, and it says it'll come your way. But as we know, like, the good teams don't operate that way. You got to jumpstart the engine every now and then. You got to jumpstart the offense. You got to get some fake vibes, fake positive vibes going. Get him the ball early. Let him see the ball go through the basket a few times. That's what gets guys like him to take over football games. So I'm with you there. I would think they're going to have that added on top of the fact that they're desperate at the position and they're playing in a conference or a division especially where there's some high-flying receivers, and you better have some guys that can, make some plays and take some pressure off the quarterback and the defense and everything. DK Metcalf can do that. So there's that aspect. Then the other reason into the money too, Mike, from all due accounts, again, people wanted DK Metcalf. I'm sure the Steelers were aware of other teams that wanted to trade for him and money that they were willing to throw out there for DK Metcalf. I'm sure they had a little bit of a gauge of what it was going to take to get it done to make him happy. They made him happy. They needed it. He needed them. He wanted the scenery change. And now we'll see where it goes. It seems like a match made in heaven. He's got that type of attitude, but now we just got to see who the hell is going to be the quarterback there in Pittsburgh.
And regardless of whether or not it was the fact that there was a bidding war, if that's what happened, and he got to 33 because somebody else was at 32.5, doesn't seem like the kind of move the Steelers would make.
Yeah,
just to
I hear you
somebody
there.
else.
Right.
Typical Steelers move would be to say, okay, you have him, we'll find somebody else. The fact that they did it underscores for me the belief that they can get value out of it. And it tells me, you mentioned Pickens. I don't think Pickens is going to be there. I don't know this.
That would be
I don't think he's
mine.
going to be there.
I'm with you. If you connect the
He's
dots,
not going to be able to
between
handle
the tea
this.
leaves, I don't know what'll happen here either. Or they're basically sending a message of like, you better, straighten up, or we're moving on and we've invested in this guy and we're not going to have enough money to pay you when it's all said and done anyways. Right. It might be
they're not going to pay him as it is.
Yeah.
They're not going to.
No.
They don't have the kind of offense that would justify $30 million.
Not right now. 100%. Right, Mike. Totally.
They don't have the kind of offense that justifies one.
Got to see
That's
it to
what's
believe
so
it.
stunning about
right,
this.
Exactly.
So you got to get the ball to one guy first on a consistent basis, which they haven't been able to do to George Pickens. So if they get the ball enough to DK Metcalf to justify $33 million a year, Chris, they're never going to be able to pump up Metcalf's numbers to the point where or Pickens' numbers to the point where he's going to be valuable to them or anyone else. He should want out. He should want out because he's no longer WR1 in Pittsburgh. It's DK Metcalf. So his numbers, Pickens' numbers, are necessarily going to be lower than they would have been this year, which is going to make his value lower next year when he becomes a free agent. He should want out now.
I wouldn't be shocked,
right
Mike.
Now.
I wouldn't be shocked if that happened this week. I really wouldn't. It would not be like this. If we were sitting here tomorrow or the next day and we went, George Pickens is being traded to team blah, blah, blah. Would you be shocked? I wouldn't. That's one of the first things that went through my mind when this happened, and I went, oh, man, they're kind of they're giving us all a signal here that they don't trust him. They're not going to make him the guy going forward. They're going with this guy. And, yeah, by all due accounts, I wouldn't think George Pickens is the type of guy that wants to take a back seat to anybody, really, from what we've seen to this point. And he hasn't handled situations like this or many situations altogether all that well. So, yeah, I'll be interested to see what happens with him here in the next few weeks.
I don't know who would want him. That's going to be part of the problem, especially because the Steelers ran the grift, the sting, on the Bears with Chase Claypool. Remember that one?
Oh, yeah.
They got the first pick in round 2, which became the last pick in round 1 because the Dolphins got stripped of their first-round pick for tampering with Tom Brady and Sean Payton. And Claypool was a disaster for the Chicago Bears. Complete disaster. He's not even in the league now. That's how bad it was. So buyer beware for George Pickens, and I think it limits what the Steelers can get. But, if you can get a 5 or a 4 for Pickens, you gave up a 2 for DK Metcalf. I think that there will be – anybody who's interested knows to call. They don't have to say he's on the trade block. Whoever would be interested in George Pickens is going to call Omar Khan today because I think they have the sense to realize that town isn't big enough for DK Metcalf and George Pickens, beyond the fact that there's only one number 14, and Metcalf is going to want it. It's easier to get it if Pickens gets traded.
I'm just
quarterback.
I just say I'm excited. I mean, is this going to be a change for the Steelers? Is this a change in philosophy, Are we about to see them do some aggressive stuff here in free agency for the first time in a while and realize, like, wait, we got to do something drastic because they keep meddling, as we know. Right? And as we always kind of talk about, they've kind of been that team that kind of pushes the chips in all year, but it's like the chips are getting old and you don't have that many anymore. Like, you might need to just take some out of the pot or get out of the game a little, take a step back to go 2 steps forward, do something drastic. Maybe this is the start of drastic moves to put them over the top.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.